Michael Lawson's knuckles were bone white as he gripped the steering wheel of his black Cadillac. At 38, the seasoned criminal defense attorney sat motionless in the driver's seat, his piercing blue eyes fixed on the front door of his upscale home in the Chicago suburbs. He had cut short a business trip in Denver, returning a full week early after receiving an anonymous tip that his wife was being unfaithful. The caller's voice echoed in his memory, each syllable like a blade twisting in his gut. Stepping out of the car, Michael caught a foreign scent in the crisp evening air. Cologne, strong, unfamiliar, and definitely not his. His jaw clenched tighter. Suspicion thickened with every step toward the house. His hand trembled just slightly as he slid the key into the lock, barely perceptible, the only outward sign of the storm raging within. The door creaked open to reveal Lauren lounging on the living room couch with a glass of wine in hand. Her eyes widened with surprise, and for a brief second, guilt flickered across her face. "Michael, you're home?" she said, voice pitched a little too high. Michael didn't answer. His gaze swept the room, cushions hastily straightened, but not quite right. That same unfamiliar cologne lingering in the air like an accusation. Without a word, he walked upstairs. Each footstep was heavy, muffled by the thick carpet, but thunderous in his mind. The bedroom didn't lie. The bedsheets weren't freshly made. They bore the imprint of two bodies. On the nightstand, a man's watch gleamed under the soft lighting. Not his. Michael picked it up, studying it closely. An expensive piece, flashy, ostentatious, belonged to someone trying too hard to impress. He set it down slowly. Years in the courtroom had trained him well. Emotion gave way to calculation. He wouldn't give Lauren the satisfaction of a dramatic confrontation. No. He'd handle this with the same precision he used to dismantle a hostile witness. Michael inhaled deeply, mentally preparing for the performance of his life. He would play the part of the clueless husband, all while gathering the evidence he needed to make Lauren regret every decision she had made. Over the next few days, Michael maintained the illusion of a normal life. Even the sharpest judge would have been fooled. He kissed Lauren goodbye each morning, chatted over dinner, even endured her forced intimacy with the practiced smile of a man in control. But behind that smile, his mind was relentless, strategizing, planning. In his home office, Michael made a call.
"Tony, I need a favor. This time, it's personal." Tony Delgado, a private investigator Michael had worked with on dozens of high-profile cases, didn't hesitate. "Tell me what's going on." "I think Lauren's cheating on me." A pause. Then a low sigh from Tony. "Damn, I'm sorry, man. I'll get on it tonight. She'll be under full-time surveillance." Next on Michael's list, upgrading the home security system. At least, that's what he told Lauren. In reality, he installed hidden cameras throughout the house. The irony of using surveillance skills he had honed in the courtroom to catch his own wife in the act wasn't lost on him. Within days, Lauren grew bolder. "I'm working late tonight," she said with a flirty smile, kissing his cheek. Her dress was far too daring for a business meeting. Michael nodded absent-mindedly, playing his role to perfection. Later that night, he reviewed the footage and photos Tony had sent. His face was a mask of cold fury as he watched Lauren and her lover, identified as Ryan Blake, a junior partner at her marketing firm, enter a boutique hotel. Michael channeled the pain into his work. He dove into a high-stakes federal case, arguing with sharper wit, cross-examining harder than ever. Colleagues noticed the shift. They attributed it to professional passion, never suspecting the personal fire fueling it. "That was incredible," said Andrea, his longtime paralegal, after a grueling court session. "I've never seen you so focused." Michael offered a tight smile. "Just doing my job." Later at night, he found solace in the familiar grind: case briefs, deposition transcripts. But when the neon green glow of O'Malley's bar reflected in his whiskey glass, Michael wasn't reading. He was plotting. Across from him sat Detective Greg Stanton, his closest friend since law school and now a respected Chicago PD investigator. Their booth at O'Malley's had long been neutral ground, where professional roles blurred into personal truths. "You sure about this?" Greg asked, voice low. Michael slid a folder across the table. "See for yourself." Greg opened it. His eyes widened as he flipped through the photos. "Jesus, Mike, I'm sorry." "Don't be," Michael said flatly. "I don't need sympathy. I need a plan." Greg studied him. The man he'd known all those years, collected, in control, was still there, but there was something new in his eyes now, something harder. "All right," Greg said. "What do you want to know about this Ryan Blake guy?" "Everything," Michael said. "His history, weaknesses, secrets. I want it all."
Greg's contacts came through faster than expected. By the next evening, Michael was back at O'Malley's, flipping through Ryan Blake's profile like it was an open case file. Office affairs, suspicious expense reports, manipulative charm. Greg listed off as Michael scanned the documents. Climbs the ladder by stepping on others. Michael absorbed every word like puzzle pieces in a legal strategy. "Thanks, Greg. I owe you one." Greg grabbed his wrist before he stood. "Just don't do anything stupid." Michael gave a dry smile. No promises. The next few weeks marked a transformation. The pain Lauren had caused him hardened into resolve. He woke at 4:30 a.m. daily, pushing his body to the limit in the gym. Every drop of sweat, every rep, every mile on the treadmill carved away the softness of the man Lauren thought she could betray. He grew leaner, stronger, more focused. The courtroom became his second arena. Cases others deemed hopeless were crushed under his intensity. Plea deals were struck in his favor. Judges leaned his way. Colleagues chalked it up to momentum. Andrea noticed. "You've been on fire lately," she remarked one night as they prepared for trial. "I've never seen you this intense." Michael didn't look up from the witness notes. "Life's too short for half measures, Andrea." While Michael rebuilt himself, Lauren remained blissfully unaware of the storm approaching. Her affair with Ryan deepened. Her lies became bolder, more frequent. One evening, as Michael reviewed trial materials in his home office, Lauren walked in wearing a silk nightgown. "Honey," she purred, "you should come to bed. You've been working so hard." Michael looked up. His eyes, colder now, studied the woman he had once loved with every fiber of his being. "I'm not tired," he said, returning to his laptop. Her face paled. Confused and unsettled, she turned and left the room. Michael allowed himself a thin smile. Everything was going according to plan. He turned back to his computer, the glow of the monitor casting sharp shadows across his now angular features. His fingers moved swiftly across the keyboard, transferring funds out of their joint accounts into private holdings, accounts only he could access. It wasn't about the money. Michael had always been the primary earner. It was about control, about cutting off every comfort Lauren thought she could fall back on. Next on his list, a meeting with Veronica Hale, the toughest divorce attorney in Chicago. They'd faced off in court before. He respected her ruthless efficiency. Now he needed it on his side. "Michael," she greeted him, her handshake firm. "I never thought I'd see you on this side of the table." "Life's full of surprises," he said coolly, "some worse than others." As they discussed strategy, Michael laid out the evidence he had gathered. Veronica raised an eyebrow, impressed. "You've built quite the case." "I want this clean, quick, and I want her to feel it," Michael said, eyes like ice. Veronica's lips curled into a predator's grin. "Oh, she will." With the legal machinery now engaged, Michael moved to the next phase. He made an anonymous call to the HR department at Lauren's firm using voice-altering software. "I have information about a pattern of inappropriate relationships involving one of your managers," he said, concerned but calm. "You might want to look into Ryan Blake and his expense accounts." "Thank you for bringing this to our attention," the HR director replied. Michael hung up, satisfaction flickering in his chest. Friday night arrived. Just as expected, Lauren kissed him on the cheek and drove off to meet clients. Once she was gone, Michael sprang into action. He stormed through the house like a man possessed. Designer clothes, shoes, jewelry, every luxury item she had accumulated were stuffed into black trash bags with clinical efficiency. He paused only once when his eyes fell on Lauren's wedding dress. White satin, now mockingly symbolic. With deliberate calm, Michael pulled it from the hanger. His hands didn't shake, not even when he picked up a pair of sharp scissors. The fabric tore with clean, precise cuts, each slice a metaphor. When the dress was nothing more than strips of silk, Michael stepped back. He dialed a locksmith. "I need all locks replaced tonight," he said firmly. The man on the other end sensed something deeper, but didn't ask. As the locksmith worked, Michael lined up the garbage bags neatly on the porch. A final act of respect toward a woman who had shown him none. Then he grabbed a notepad and pen. His handwriting was steady as he scrawled, "I hope he was worth losing everything." He placed the note on top of the bags and pinned it in place with Lauren's wedding ring. Then he walked away, calm, composed, and ready for the final act. The night air was thick with alcohol and arrogance as Lauren stumbled out of Ryan Blake's Audi. Her laugh rang out, a little too loud, slicing through the quiet street like glass. "Lauren," Ryan hissed, glancing around the upscale neighborhood, "you want to wake the whole damn block?" She rolled her eyes, digging through her clutch for her keys. "Relax, Ryan. Michael's probably passed out in his office again." But as they approached the door, her drunken haze began to fade. The key didn't fit. Confused, she tried again. Then she saw them, the black trash bags piled neatly by the door. Her breath caught in her throat. "What the hell?" she muttered, staring. Then her eyes landed on the note. She picked it up with trembling hands. "I hope he was worth losing everything." Pinned beneath it was her wedding ring. "No, no, no, no," she whispered, panic rising. Her mind scrambled for some logical explanation. Ryan stepped beside her, smug and oblivious. "What's going on, babe? Forgot your key?" She handed him the note wordlessly. Ryan read it, his cocky smirk faltering for a beat before he forced a chuckle. "So what? He found out? Perfect. You're better off without him. Come stay at my place. We'll celebrate our freedom." Lauren turned to look at him. Something cold flickered in her eyes. "I need to talk to Michael," she muttered, fumbling for her phone. Ryan's expression soured instantly. "Are you serious? After everything? You're gonna go crawling back?" She ignored him, hands shaking as she dialed Michael's number. Straight to voicemail. She left one message, then another, and another, each more desperate than the last. As the night wore on, her panic deepened. She cycled through rage, tears, and hollow pleading. Ryan grew increasingly irritated. "Look," he snapped, "you coming with me or not? I'm not standing here all night while you have a breakdown." Lauren stared at him. For the first time, she saw through the expensive suit and rehearsed smile. Behind the charm was a selfish boy playing grown-up. She gathered what little she could carry and climbed into his car. The silence between them was deafening. The next morning, Lauren stormed into Michael's office like a storm front, dragging Ryan in tow.
She was seething with a mix of righteous fury and simmering fear. Michael was at his desk, calm and unreadable, as if he'd been expecting them.
"Lauren, Ryan," he greeted coldly. "I was wondering when you'd show up." Lauren charged forward. "What the hell is this, Michael? You can't just lock me out of my own house?" Michael raised an eyebrow. "Your house? Legally, I believe you'll find it's mine. But please, sit. We have things to discuss." They sat, stiff and tense. Michael reached into a drawer and pulled out a thick folder. He slid it across the table toward them. "I took the liberty of preparing these." Inside, divorce papers. Detailed, ironclad, brutal. Ryan leaned forward, face flushed. "You son of a—" Michael cut him off with a single raised hand. "I'd advise you to remain silent, Mr. Blake, especially considering the ongoing ethics investigation at your firm." Ryan went pale. Lauren's eyes darted between them. She turned to Michael, her voice barely a whisper. You planned all this?" Michael smiled, cold, precise. "I simply believe actions should have consequences, something you both seem to have forgotten." She flipped through the paperwork. Her face turned from shock to rage. "This is insane! You think I'm going to accept this? I'll ruin you, Michael. I'll tell everyone what a cold, calculating bastard you really are." Michael leaned back in his chair, utterly unmoved. "Feel free. But think carefully. Who do you think people will believe? A respected attorney, or the woman who got caught cheating with her junior employee? And by the way, defamation is still actionable." Lauren fell silent, her posture deflating as the reality of her situation sank in. Beside her, Ryan was already mentally planning his exit strategy. Michael stood, buttoning his jacket. "I suggest you both take some time to review the documents. My attorney will be in touch." As they left the office, defeated, humiliated, Michael allowed himself a flicker of satisfaction. The board was set. The pieces were moving. And he was in control. In the weeks that followed, Lauren's world crumbled like ash in the wind. Word of the affair spread quickly through their social circle. High-end neighbors, country club members, charity boards. Invitations stopped arriving. Her inbox sat silent. At a charity gala she once co-chaired, Lauren was relegated to the sidelines, watching others take the stage where she used to stand. Even those who used to envy her now whispered behind manicured hands. Can you believe she threw away Michael for a junior associate? He deserves so much better. At the same time, Ryan was drowning in his own fallout. The HR investigation gained traction fast. Anonymous tips, whispered confessions. Discrepancies in his expense reports were just the tip of the iceberg. "Mr. Blake," the HR director said gravely, "we've uncovered multiple complaints regarding inappropriate conduct. Effective immediately, you are suspended pending formal review." Ryan's trademark confidence shattered as security walked him out of the building. His career, built on charm and shortcuts, collapsed in a matter of days. By that evening, Ryan was back at his condo, only to find Lauren waiting, eyes bloodshot from crying. "Ryan, thank God! I didn't know where else to go. Everyone's turned on me. Michael!" "Shut up," he snapped, brushing past her. "This is your fault. If you hadn't been so careless, so stupid, none of this would have happened." She recoiled. "My fault? You're the one who chased me, told me I deserved better." He laughed bitterly. "Better? Look at us. This is a dumpster fire. I'm about to lose my license and reputation. For what? A bored housewife desperate for attention?" His words struck like a slap.
She stared at him, truly saw him for the first time. "Get out," he said coldly. "I've got to figure out how to save what's left of my life, and I don't need you dragging it down any further." Lauren left without a word. Alone again. No husband, no lover, no friends, just silence. She drove aimlessly, ending up outside the house she used to call home. Parked across the street, she watched as Michael arrived. He looked different, leaner, stronger, confident in a way she hadn't seen in years. A wave of grief hit her. On impulse, she got out and walked to the door, hands trembling as she rang the bell. Michael opened it. His face was unreadable as he took in her disheveled state. "Lauren," he said, voice devoid of warmth, "what are you doing here?" Tears welled up in her eyes. "Michael, I'm so sorry. I made a terrible mistake. Please, can we talk? Maybe fix things?" For a second, something flickered in his eyes. A memory, maybe. A ghost of love. But it vanished, replaced by cool resolve. "There's nothing to fix, Lauren. You made your choice." "I still love you," she whispered. Michael stepped back. "No, you love the idea of me. The successful man who gave you a comfortable life while you did whatever you pleased. But that life is gone." He paused. "Ryan dumped me," she admitted softly. Michael gave a humorless laugh. "Of course he did. Guys like him always run when things get hard." She reached out. "Please, just a second chance." But Michael shook his head. "You brought this on yourself." And with that, he closed the door. The divorce proceedings drew attention. Michael, always composed, arrived in court looking every inch the powerhouse attorney. Lauren did not. Her designer polish had been replaced by tired eyes and trembling hands. Veronica Hale, sharp as ever, laid out a masterful case. She presented the affair, the hidden accounts, the diverted expenses. Lauren's attorney, a young and overwhelmed man, struggled to keep up. "Your Honor," Veronica concluded, "granting alimony to a woman who siphoned marital assets for an extramarital affair is not justice, it's mockery." Lauren fumed, whispering furiously to her lawyer. But it was over. Even Ryan's testimony sealed her fate. "Yes, we had an affair," he admitted. "She initiated it, pushed me, encouraged me to hide our trips and expenses through the company." Lauren stood up mid-hearing. "You lying bastard! You begged me to leave him!" "Miss Lawson," the judge snapped, "one more outburst and I will hold you in contempt." Michael, calm as ever, offered no reaction. He didn't need to. The facts spoke for themselves. In the end, the ruling was swift. Michael would keep the house, the assets, and primary custody of their foundation accounts. Lauren walked away with little more than her maiden name and a black mark on her reputation. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Michael offered no comment. Lauren tried to speak, but her words were lost in the noise. Months passed, and life moved forward. Michael threw himself into his work with renewed purpose. The quiet dignity with which he had handled his personal collapse only elevated his reputation. Clients trusted him more. Colleagues respected him deeply. And beyond the courtroom, his philanthropic work expanded. He found a new kind of fulfillment in helping those with no voice, survivors of abuse, young lawyers from disadvantaged backgrounds, struggling families. His personal life blossomed too. His relationship with Dr. Sophia Reynolds, a brilliant neurosurgeon he had met at a professional awards dinner, deepened with time. 2 years after that night, they married in an intimate ceremony under a canopy of autumn leaves. Their bond was forged in shared values, mutual respect, and a profound understanding of what it meant to rebuild after loss. Together, Michael and Sophia became a fixture in Chicago's philanthropic circles.
Their annual gala for survivors of domestic violence became one of the city's most anticipated charity events, drawing leaders, donors, and the press. For Michael, it was always bittersweet. Each speech, each face in the crowd reminded him of how far he'd come from the night he found that cologne in his house. Andrea, once his quiet, diligent paralegal, thrived under his mentorship. With his encouragement, she graduated law school, passed the bar, and became a junior partner at the firm. Her admiration for Michael evolved into something deeper: respect, gratitude, and a fierce loyalty born of shared battles and earned trust. Even Greg Stanton, his old friend from law school and the Chicago PD, often joked, "You didn't just win the case, you rewrote the playbook." As for Ryan Blake, forgotten. And Lauren? Her brother, Daniel Prescott, who once tried to shield her, had cut ties after the divorce. Choosing truth over family had been painful, but over time he found peace knowing he'd done what was right. He turned that moment into a mission, becoming a vocal advocate for ethics and transparency in corporate law. Then, one crisp fall evening, Michael and Sophia walked hand in hand through Lincoln Park, golden leaves crunching beneath their shoes. They passed a bench by the lake where a woman sat hunched and alone. Her coat was too thin for the weather. Her shoulders sagged with invisible weight. It was Lauren. Time had not been kind to her. Her face was pale and tired, eyes hollowed by regret. For a fleeting second, something stirred in Michael's chest, something that wasn't sadness or nostalgia, but perhaps quiet acknowledgement of the strange paths life takes. Sophia gently squeezed his hand, grounding him in the present. They kept walking. As they strolled under the fading sun, Michael reflected on the journey that had brought him here. The betrayal that once threatened to break him had become the fire that refined him. He had emerged sharper, stronger, whole. When they reached the hill overlooking the skyline, the sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting long amber shadows across the city. Michael Lawson stood still for a moment, breathing in the cool air. He had paid the price for betrayal, but in doing so, he had earned something far greater: a life of purpose, of integrity, and a love that didn't just survive the fire, it rose from it. And that, in the end, was worth every step.